Hello, and welcome to Pittsburgh City Council's regular meeting for Tuesday, July 16th, 2019. My name is Kim Clark Baskin, and I'm your Deputy City Clerk. With us today, we have our sign language interpreter, David Tatro. Due to the length of today's agenda, we will not read each piece of legislation. Please go to the Legislative Information Center via the City Council website to access the bills that will be introduced. You can find the link in the business drop-down on the City of Pittsburgh's website, which is pittsburghpa.gov. Click the Legislative Information Center. From there, click the Launch button. This will take you to City Council's meeting calendar. Find the meeting for today's date and click the agenda. All legislation to be introduced will then populate. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this regular meeting of Pittsburgh City Council for today, Tuesday, July the 16th, 2019. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Reverend Burgess, Mr. Coghill,
Here.
Ms. Gross,
Here.
Mrs. Harris,
Here.
Mr. Lavelle, Mr. O'Connor,
Here.
Mrs. Kel-Smith, Ms. Strasburger,
Here.
Mr. Kraus, President.
Here.
6 members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? We ask that you would then remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Our next order of business are proclamations. Our first presenter will be Councilwoman Strasburger.
As you can tell, I'm not Councilwoman Strasburger, but we are co-sponsoring this. Can we have big brothers and big sisters please come up?
I have Councilwoman Strasburger on my notes. Councilman O'Connor.
You're right. I'm horning in on this.
Okay.
So if you don't know, big brothers and big sisters, we celebrate them often here because they do so many great things in all of our neighborhoods. I know a lot of our staff on the 5th floor actually volunteer and are big brothers and big sisters to a lot of people. And this today we're actually celebrating our award winners that came locally, and I believe they won the state award as well. So Councilwoman Strasburger and I are sponsoring this, but we want to thank Councilmember Baker for always being involved, not just in government, but also with your great work at Big Brothers Big Sisters. So I'm going to pass it off to Councilwoman Strasburger to read the proclamations.
Thank you, Councilman. Whereas the Big Brothers Big Sisters program of Greater Pittsburgh seeks to provide children facing adversity with strong, enduring, professionally supported one-to-one relationships. And whereas, through their participation in this program, Ms. Ecker and Mr. Richardson transformed the lives of their little siblings, Janiyah and Jayon, by offering academic and personal support. And whereas Ms. Ecker and Mr. Richardson embody the mission of Big Brothers, Big Sisters, exemplifying the values of patience, support, and positive outcomes for children. And whereas these mentors' ongoing dedication was essential in helping their little siblings achieve their goals, now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh does hereby celebrate the significant impact of Mr. J.J. Richardson's and Ms. Lacey Ecker's involvement with Big Brothers Big Sisters and recognizes the important contribution of the Big Brothers Big Sisters agency to the Pittsburgh community. And be it further resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh does hereby declare Tuesday, July 16, 2019 to be Pennsylvania Bigs of the Year Day in the City of Pittsburgh. And I will also note we have a couple of other proclamations I won't read the whole thing, but it's further resolved that declaring Tuesday, July 16th, 2019 to be J.J. Richardson Day in the city of Pittsburgh, and declaring Tuesday, July 16th, 2019 also to be Lacey Ecker Day in the city of Pittsburgh.
That's great. We have a motion and a second, please. All in favor, aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Congratulations. I just have to echo what Councilman O'Connor said already. Just such a long-standing presence in our community, and it really shows the strength of Pittsburgh's kind of giving spirit to know that so many people volunteer to be big brothers and big sisters, truly changing the lives of children and enduring, allowing those relationships to endure throughout their lifetimes. I've heard some really heartwarming stories about not just relationships with adults and children and through the mentorship program, but as those children as those littles become adults, still allowing for those relationships to blossom and for a mentorship to be possible throughout the years. So thank you for what you do, for all of you for what you do, and congratulations.
Thank you. Good.
Okay.
No,
so these two people are absolutely wonderful, and I'm a better bragger about them than they are about themselves. So we'll start with Lacey Ecker, who's been for a number of years. She spearheads and chairs our Young Professional Board. We have a really vibrant Young Professional Board at Big Brothers Big Sisters. JJ and I actually met each other through one of the largest young professional groups in the city, Pump, 15 years ago when we were younger. But our group, our young professional group for Big Brothers Big Sisters, one of the best. We actually have a cornhole tournament coming up on the 28th if anybody wants to participate. But they raised over $50,000 for the organization last year as a group. So Lacey chairs that group within Big Brothers Big Sisters and is also just a tireless advocate. She's the president of the Young Lawyers division of the bar, which is very impressive as well, and an attorney at American Eagle. So we're really lucky to have her on board as the president of our Young Professional Board. This man, J.J. Richardson, if you can believe it, he is 6'6", but he started out as a little brother. He was little at one point in his life and was a little brother in Big Brothers Big Sisters, and really has gone the whole trajectory, I think, of what kids can achieve in our program, which is going from being a little to growing up, getting a college degree, going to law school, and becoming a big brother to two little brothers. Now, he chaired our male recruitment board for a while, then he got on the board of directors, and he became the board of directors president. So to go from little brother, and we got to get Samir to do this someday, from little brother to board of directors president is a pretty incredible trajectory, and now he's the big of the year in Pennsylvania. I was saying winning Pittsburgh in some ways might be harder than winning Pennsylvania. We go into a room, and the names like Lacey Ecker and J.J. Richardson, members of both your staffs, these great human beings go on the board, and names come off. Just some of the nicest people you've ever met, and at the end of the day, it was J.J. Richardson and Lacey Ecker. So they deserve this day that you guys have been kind enough to give them, and they deserve all the credit in the world for the difference that they make. We could use more J.J. Richardsons and Lacey Eckers in the city, though. If anybody ever thought about volunteering with Big Brothers Big Sisters, we do always have a need, so we'd love to have you join J.J. And Lacey as bigs. Christine's been there all the way along to support hundreds and thousands of matches over the years, but she's been working with Lacey for the last 6 or 7 years, and we'll be working with JJ through 2.0. So we've got a great team, and with that, let's turn over to, you want to hear from the bigs a little bit? Councilman Coghill, are you pumped?
Yeah.
You look pumped. Okay, all right.
I'll just be quick. Thank you very much for recognizing us. Really, I stand up here on behalf of the entire organization. We couldn't do it without the great agency we have. I mean, I think the Pittsburgh Big Brothers Big Sisters is probably one of the best in the nation. And I'm just a special thanks to Christine. She's my match support specialist. So in Big Brothers Big Sisters, there's a staff member who calls every month for a while and then every quarter. I mean, really, those are the folks that answer the calls, on the weekends, at night, like, hey, this happened, what do I do? I don't have children of my own, so I have no, standard for, my little's 14 now, so we're fully in the teenage years. And Christine is just great. She's always there to support, as is the rest of the Big Brothers Big Sisters staff. It's not possible with that agency behind us and volunteers like myself. And also to the littles. I mean, the littles really give us the opportunity to mentor and make a difference. And, it's a partnership. They have to come to the table too. And you really watch the littles grow up and mature. And I've been with Janiyah for 6 years. So we started when she was 9. She's about to be 15. So, I mean, it's really been a great journey. If anybody is ever, thinking about getting involved in the community, I really, really encourage getting involved in the lives of children, because you really do have the opportunity to make an impact that then, lasts for years to come and helps them to become, great members of society and the community and all of that. So thank you.
Thank you very much, members of council and the city of Pittsburgh. I'm very honored and humbled to accept this recognition on behalf of our organization and all of our staff and volunteers and all of the other very deserving big brothers and big sisters that have volunteered through our agency. I came to Pittsburgh in 1997, and the city opened its arms to me and embraced me, and I've embraced it and its young people back because it means a lot to me. And anytime recognition like this comes our way, whether it's individual, even when it's an individually focused recognition, I think it's good because it shines a light on the outstanding work that the organization is doing. And it's a real credit to the staff and the volunteers, like I said. And the other thing I think it's important to recognize is that if it weren't for the hard work and focus and dedication of my little brother and Lacey's little sister, and the outstanding achievements that they've already realized in their lives, no one would have mentioned our names as possibly being the Big of the Year. So I really want to recognize them and thank them as well. And again, I would encourage anyone who's ever considered volunteering to help young people to follow through on that, because it will be the most rewarding thing you can do. And I, speak from experience on both sides as a little and a big. But I appreciate the recognition. Thank you.
Councilwoman Smith. If she's not here, okay. Okay. Next, we have Councilwoman Kell Smith, and I'm asking for Councilwoman Strasburger to stand for Councilwoman Kell Smith. Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Absolutely. Perfect time. Well, this looks like a really wonderful organization. Everyone who's here for NACRO Days, if you would please join us. The Network
please
of
come up.
Academic Corporate Relations Officers. So I will start by reading the proclamation, and then we'll have Councilwoman Kell Smith come and finish it and say a few words. Whereas the Network of Academic Corporate Relations Officers, NACRO, strengthens academic and corporate relations by bringing together professionals from across the country to compare and refine ideas and strategies for increasing the value of relationships between industry and higher education. And what,
Keep doing.
okay.
Some of us don't have enough reading glasses.
Whereas, since their humble beginnings in 2007, NACRO has grown into a network of over 500 U.S. and international professionals who have formed to create mutually beneficial outcomes such as research funding, access to highly specialized facilities, in-kind gifts, jobs, and internships for students, participants in executive education programs, licensing income, corporate foundation funding, event sponsorship, and more. And whereas corporations no longer consider themselves to be simply donors to academia, they consider themselves to be investors and business partners. And whereas NACRO provides professional development through education, training, and leadership development opportunities, thought leadership by creating and disseminating new knowledge about corporate relations, networking by encouraging member communication and camaraderie, and advocacy. And whereas, with the help of Visit Pittsburgh, NACRO is holding its annual conference in Pittsburgh, July 16th through 18th at the Weston Convention Center. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh does hereby commend NACRO for their work in developing stronger relations between corporate and institutions of higher learning. And be it further resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh does hereby declare July 16th through 18th, 2019 to be NACRO Days in the City of Pittsburgh.
May I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Congratulations.
I just want to thank you for all the work that you do. I apologize for my coming late. Thank you for all the work that you do in the city of Pittsburgh. But I also want to say I want to thank Adam Cosgrove for bringing this worthwhile organization to our attention. We do anything for Adam. He was the mustache man of America, in case you don't know, so, and a District 2 resident. So he really has, I hold him in high regard. But I want to thank you very much. And do you want to come say a few words? Is anybody else up here? Tell me who. You? Okay. Another Adam. Yes. Two Adams. You can all say a few words.
Thank you, Ince, for having us. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Did I do that? No, thank you to the city and thank you to the council for having us. We couldn't think of a better city to bring nearly 400 of our members to come for the week. It's a full week, and this is a conference that's all about networking, so there's a lot of opportunities to be outside of the conference. So it's very critical that we find cities that are good hosts for that, and we know that this is a good one.
And I'm actually a Pittsburgh regional person, so I'm really pleased and honored that we're able to have so many out-of-towners here to show them what a wonderful city that we are. We have lots of corporations that are local to Pittsburgh. They're going to be speaking to our constituents, which we're thrilled about. And as a person from the University of Pittsburgh, and obviously Adam represents Carnegie Mellon, we have a lot of local institutions that are involved. So we are just, really heartwarming, honored. So thank you so much for recognizing us and allowing us to spotlight Pittsburgh this year.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you, Adam. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and we're going to take a photo. Can all of council come up? And I also want to thank you for having your
Sure.
conference.
May we have all members for the
Thank you very
photograph, please?
Thank you, thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you so much. It's Macro's color. We're Macro blue. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you. Good job. Thank you so much. We got copies for everyone on the board. We're going to be. This is such a cool.
Okay. All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, we do have one more proclamation to be read into the record, and that is presented by Councilwoman Kell Smith. You may, please.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Councilwoman Kell Smith presents, be it further resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh does hereby declare July 13, 2019 to be Dwayne Williams Memorial Scholarship Fund Day in the City of Pittsburgh.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. May I have a motion and a second, please?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstentions, motion passes. Thank you. That concludes the proclamation portion of the council meeting, and will take us into public comment. I would like to take this opportunity to remind everyone here that wishes to speak at public comment that our rules are clear when they state that your comment is limited to matters of concern, official action, or deliberation which are at this time or may at another time come before the council. We will not permit profanity, and we will maintain order at all times. We ask that you please begin by giving your name and the neighborhood in which you reside for our public record. The yellow light will indicate, the green light will indicate the start of your 3 minutes. When the yellow light comes on, you'll have 1 minute to summarize your thoughts. When the red light comes on, your time will have expired. May we have our first speaker, please? Okay. David, good morning.
Good morning. David Tessitore, Highland Park. Well, it seems that our request from Morningside residents of over 60 that we have a hearing in the neighborhood where we could have 100 or more people show up has been changed. Instead was scheduled for tomorrow at 1:30, and I think you'll be lucky if anybody comes. I'm not sure I'm going to be there. We specifically asked on the petition that it be in the neighborhood. This affects the neighborhood. Certainly, if we pass the Open Government Amendment, eventually something such as that would be required to be in the neighborhood. It's unconscionable to me why we are ignoring the request of the neighbors when we have two facilities within the neighborhood that could be used. It might take a little bit of arrangements, but it could be done. So I will petition again and again until we do get one in the neighborhood. We have major construction happening this fall that's supposed to be happening, and so in advance of that I will petition on it and hope again that we might have it scheduled in the neighborhood as requested by the residents. I am quite chagrined that when we first submitted it, that President and Council came back to me and explained that they needed 30 days. Well, now I'm under the understanding that it's to be within the 30 days of submission, which this is well beyond. So this is creating some concerns. I do hope the Council will be more receptive to the requests of the residents of town. This has certainly been a major impact on the citizenry. The people who are most affected are the people who are working during the day and would not be able to attend. That's why we requested an evening meeting in the neighborhood. This is not open government. We have a mayor who declares open government and then had his chief of staff remove the amendment that we had in place. It would have required this. It's just something that leaves me in disgust. And I do hope that council as a whole, if it requires that to override the president of council's placement of this, to take action. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, next speaker, please. Okay, Dr. Miller, good morning.
Dr. Ronald N. Miller, Pittsburgh City, Homewood, which is more than 80% African American, and also Cheyenne City, Wyoming, less than 2% African American. Global Intelligence Society candidate for President of the United States 2020, globalintelligencesociety.org. I and the GIS think that the local legislative branch of government, Pittsburgh City Council, for example, is more important than a state assembly or the National Congress of the USA. I have the highest respect for the offices of council counselors, but for your actions, such as David just identified, I have the lowest. Concerns of council are, among them are, quality versus inequality, the vote, and city good versus evil. July 2019 is Global Intelligence Society sponsored African Intelligence Month, which was initiated by me in 2010. GI Global Intelligence shows, in my view, an African American actor, Denzel Washington, whose interdisciplinary international work defies categorization, who could be Malcolm Little X in the film Malcolm X, could be Frank Lucas in American Gangster, and Bleak Gilliam, trumpet player in Mo Better Blues, my favorite, who's Robert McCall in Equalizer 2, when asked by a Boston 20-something gang vulnerable black male why he was erasing graffiti, answered, "I guess anybody could do it, but nobody does it." Then everybody complains because nobody does what anybody could have done, should have done about evil. Evil is what kills life, the ability to live. Inequality, in my view, is a form of evil. There is inequality in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburghers expect you district representatives to be equalizers. Are we delusional? The vote is a problem. The quality of vote is a problem. Votes in Pittsburgh and USA elections. The truth value of an individual vote, VTV, is the core of a democracy's ability to live. The VTV requires proof that a recorded vote is connected to a specific voter, which exists in no vote recording system in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the United States. So U.S. election results are unverifiable at present. They are an illusion. Refusing to guarantee VTV destroys the ability of a democracy to live. And that refusal, in my view, is evil. Individual and collective VTV can be guaranteed by providing any voter a vote receipt, with encrypted information showing not only that the voter voted, but for whom. Refusing that provision destroys VTV and therefore destroys the ability of democracy in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the United States to live. It is a form of evil. Not Trump, but this system. You Pittsburgh Council District Representatives and Mr. Peduto so refuse, and in this action, all of you are evil. The action, not you.
Okay, Dr. Miller, thank you. Do we have any further speakers this morning? Anyone wishing to speak before council this morning? Okay, seeing no further speakers, we'll close off the public comment portion of the council meeting. We'll move into presentation of papers. Our first committee of the morning is our Committee on Finance and Law with our chair, Councilman Burgess. Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman Reverend Burgess presents Bill number 1860, resolution authorizing the mayor and the executive director of the Gender Equity Commission to receive grant funding from the grant makers of Western Pennsylvania to conduct a listening tour in which commissioners will engage with youth to identify existing intersectional inequities and offer ideas to improve the equities of Pittsburgh, and further providing for expenditures not to exceed $1,000. Bill number 1861, resolution authorizing issuance of a warrant in the amount of $12,876.37 in favor of Duquesne Light Company for damage to their light pole and transformer on Leonard Street. Bill number 1862, resolution providing for the sale of certain property acquired by the city at tax sale, item A through J, 850 Series, 507 Gearing, 339 Seaward, 1200 Spring Garden, 1206 and 1204 Spring Garden, and 1208, 848 California, 846 California, 2925 Hartman. Bill number 1863, resolution repealing items and resolutions approved on various dates, which authorizes sale of property in various wards of the city due to incompletion of sale, item A through C, 1812 Enoch, 1612 Brighton, 2241 Spokane. Bill number 1864, resolution providing for the conveyance by the city, certain property having been placed for sale to adjoining property owners, in conjunction with the City of Pittsburgh Side Yard Program, items A through M. 1845 Boulevard of the Allies, 0 Rosetta, 515 Lowell, 118 Dindler, 618 Freeland, 624 Freeland, 544 Herschel, 0 Brighton, 1619 Brighton, 854 California, 6 Olive, 260 Kennedy, and 63 Wheeling. Bill number 1866, resolution amending resolution number 772 of 2012 by reducing Homewood cameras by $53,578 and increasing public safety cameras by $53,578.
Madam Clerk, I have one more bill that wasn't read. I have Bill 1900 on here.
Bill 1900, resolution transferring the amount of $44,910 from the property vehicles line item to professional and technical services administrative fees, all within the city clerk's office.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilman Coghill, our Chair of Urban Recreation.
No new papers, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Gross, our Chair of Land Use and Economic Development.
No new papers, Mr. President.
Thank you, Council.
Copy, but no new papers.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Harris, our Chair of Human Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Councilwoman Harris presents Bill number 1867, resolution requesting authorization for the mayor and the manager of the Office of Municipal Investigations to enter into an agreement with Assured Polygraph Services for an amount not to exceed $24,000. Bill number 1868, resolution providing for an agreement with Create Lab at Carnegie Mellon University to develop an interactive mapping tool utilizing local housing data regarding discrimination, displacement, eviction, and gentrification to help provide evidence for systematic and complex housing complaints and to better coordinate outreach efforts with local advocacy agencies in an amount not to exceed $20,000.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilman Lavelle, our Chair of Public Safety Services. Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman Lavelle presents Bill number 1869, resolution providing for the issuance of a warrant in favor of Specialty Vehicle Solutions, LLC, in an amount of $40,505.10 for the upfitting of a vehicle for the Department of Public Safety, Bureau of Police. Bill number 1870, resolution amending resolution number 133, authorizing the mayor and director of public safety to enter on behalf of the city into a 3-year professional services agreement with Johnson's Control for security camera integration and support services to define funding sources.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilman O'Connor, our Chair of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Present.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman O'Connor presents Bill number 1865, resolution directing the Department of Permits, Licenses, and Inspections and the Department of Finance to establish guidelines to ensure that all contractors on publicly owned projects are properly licensed. Bill number 1871, resolution adopting plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh official sewer facilities plan for proposed land development located at 7502 Thomas Boulevard. Bill number 1872, resolution adopting plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh official sewer facilities plan for the Commonwealth Building. Bill number 1873, resolution to rescind Resolution 648, authorizing the city to execute and record a declaration of condominium along with the Housing Authority and the URA as declared for the condominium to be known as the Pittsburgh Governmental Center at the property located at 412 Boulevard of the Allies, and further authorizing the execution and filing as may be required of all related instruments or documents necessary to ensure compliance with the Pennsylvania Uniform Condominium Act, and further authorizing the city to participate in the unit's owners organization to be organized in compliance with applicable law. Bill number 1874, resolution authorizing the mayor and the Director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure on behalf of the city to enter into a corporation agreement and amendments as needed with the Port Authority of Allegheny County and the URA in order to determine responsibilities and facilitate completion of the Bus Rapid Transit Project, in addition to authorizing expenditure of city funds toward the Bus Rapid Transit Project in an amount not to exceed $90,000, and authorizing receipt of certain funds under the corporation agreement to be authorized for further expenditure towards staffing of the Bus Rapid Transit Project. Bill number 1875, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure and or the director of the Department of City Planning on behalf of the city to enter into a corporation agreement with the URA in order for the city to receive $20,000 to support a beautification project of artist designs and city-owned curb extensions on Broadway Avenue in the Beachview neighborhood as part of a greater streetscaping project occurring at this location. Bill number 1876, resolution authorizing a 2019-2020 corporation agreement with the URA, providing for the designation of the local matching share for a grant applied to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development Keystone Communities Program for the Small Landlord Program Council District All. Bill number 1877, Resolution authorizing a 2019-2020 corporation agreement with the URA providing for the designation of the local matching share for a grant applied to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development Keystone Communities Program for a housing accessibility program, Council District All. Bill number 1878, resolution authorizing the URA to submit an application for a housing accessibility program in an amount of $250,000 to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development for the operation and administration of certain programs and projects in FY 2019-2020, all council districts. Bill number 1879, resolution authorizing the URA to submit an application for financial assistance for the small landlord program in an amount of $250,000 to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development for the operation and administration of certain programs and projects in fiscal year 2019-2020. Bill number 1880, resolution authorizing the URA to acquire all the city's rights, title, and interest, if any, in and to the publicly owned properties in the 15th ward of the city designated in the Deed Registry Office of Allegheny County as 126 and 130 Hazelwood Avenue. Bill number 1881, resolution approving an execution of a contract for disposition by sale of land by and between the URA and Northside Properties in the 21st and 25th wards of the city, 903, 929, 949 Lysol Street, 921 California Avenue, and Brighton Place.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilman O'Connor.
Yes, I have a motion on Bill 1874 to waive the rules so that this bill will appear on tomorrow's agenda. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Okay, seeing none. Bill 1874 will be added to tomorrow's standing committee agenda. Our next committee is our Committee on Public Works Services with our chair, Councilwoman Teresa Kale-Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Councilwoman Kell Smith presents Bill number 1882, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement between the city and Renaissance 3 Architect for the professional architectural services for Robert E. Williams Community Building reconstruction and design documents at a cost not to exceed $147,807. Bill number 1883, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Public Works to enter into a professional services agreement between the city and Rios Williams Architect, P.C., for architectural and engineering design services for a series of restroom renovations in the city-county building for not to exceed $110,719.05. Bill number 1884, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Public Works to execute relevant agreements to receive grant funding from the Pennsylvania Historical and Museums Commission's Keystone Historic Preservation Construction Grant to replace the stones around the pedestrian tunnel in Highland Park, and further providing for an agreement not to exceed $100,000. The city will supply the required matching fund and supplement the project in an amount of $420,000 for this stated purpose. Total project cost, $520,000. Bill number 1885, resolution vacating a portion of Colwell Street and portions of R Way in the 3rd Ward, 6th Council District. Bill number 1886, resolution granting unto Zion Adumbo his successors and assigns the privilege and license to construct, maintain, and use at its own cost and expense an exterior wood trellis at the Alibaba Restaurant in the 4th Ward, 6th Council District. Bill number 1887, resolution providing for a contract or agreements for the purpose of receiving and expending grant funds, providing for the implementation of the Advanced Transportation and Congestion Management Technologies Development Project, and enter into additional agreements with any other relevant agencies as needed to accept grant fundings offered to the city for this project, and further providing for a legitimate expenditure for any services required in connection with the expenditure of said grant funds per the original intent of the grant award. Said agreement shall not exceed $21,798,636. Bill number 1888, Resolution providing for a contract and/or agreements providing for the planning, design, repairs, maintenance, improvements, emergencies, operations, and/or the purchase of materials, equipment, and supplies in connection with the production of the Oakland Transportation Study and associated projects. Bill number 1889, resolution amending resolution number 440 so as to perform reprogramming within City Council from D2 DEK Hockey and Southwest Pittsburgh CDC to Birmingham Foundation West Side Mustangs, $6,000. Bill number 1890, resolution amending resolution number 441 so as to reprogramming within City Council from D2 DEK Hockey and Southwest Pittsburgh CDC to Birmingham Foundation West Side Mustangs, $6,000.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Strasburger, then our Chair of Innovation, Performance, and Asset Management.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Councilwoman Strasburger presents Bill number 1891, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure and the Department of Innovation and Performance on behalf of the city to enter into an agreement with Shared Streets in order to receive access to the visualization platform suite, which will further the city's ability to deliver mobility services to residents.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The chair has 2 appointments for council's consideration. Thank you.
Council President Kraus presents Bill number 1892, resolution appointing Lynn Williams Davenport Esquire to serve as a member of the Ethics Hearing Board for a term to expire June 30th, 2021. Bill number 1893, resolution appointing Professor Mary Ann Herman to serve as a member of the Ethics Hearing Board for a term to expire June 30th, 2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Harris.
Motion to interview.
We have a motion to interview the 2 candidates. Do I have a second? I have a second. Is there a discussion on the motion to interview the 2 candidates?
I have a question.
Yes.
So we have to approve these, right?
We do. We do.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so going forward, just so you know, I'll vote on anything, any interview, as long as we have the power to approve them. But in the future, if we do not have the power to approve them, I am not going to vote for interviews. If we're simply ratifying the administration's pick, I see very little worth. We can always meet with them, we can meet with them, but I think the interview is of very little importance. So that's just me. I'm just saying my preference going forward.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Kell-Smith.
I'll just be real brief. I just think that, for me, the concerns I have are when it's an authority, especially like a PWSA or El Casan or something that is affecting the residents. I honestly don't even think anybody, even any elected official, should be having any part of this ethics commission. I think that there should be somehow an independent, no matter how you do it, somehow politics or politicians involved. But to me, I personally don't want to. But I know that Councilwoman Harris, she likes to be here, she likes the interviews. I don't come to them unless it's something that's affecting the residents.
Okay. All right, so thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. I'll work with the clerk then to schedule the interviews for Ms. Davenport and Professor Herman.
I had my hand up.
Okay.
I just feel that this is a chance also for the public to see who's going on the boards, because they hear of the boards, but they never see the people. So when we do the interviews,
No, I
at
don't
least
disagree. I'm
they
just saying
see
I
them.
personally don't want to hold up the staff, have the cameras. I wish there was some way we could simplify this so that it's not every couple of weeks we're running cameras and spending taxpayer money on something that we could do really quickly. I'm going to shut
You'd
up
be
now.
surprised what we spend taxpayer money on. It's
I'm not
a waste.
surprised, believe me.
Okay. I'm going to limit the interrogatory comment at this time and move into unfinished business. We do have one. I'm sorry. Oh, we did vote. We did not. Yes, we did. We did voted. Yeah, they just were quite silent, but we did vote. And then we do have one interviewee from last Wednesday for our Commission on Human Relations that will need approval this morning.
Bill number 1849, resolution appointing Michael Gerard Bartley to serve as a member of the Commission on Human Relations for a term to expire July 31st, 2023.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve, please?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Stay.
One abstention noted from Councilwoman Harris.
This Michael Barkley.
Yeah, Michael Bartley.
I just want to say, I think he's such a great guy. I mean, I don't want to be honest, clear.
Yeah.
He's been friends with my brother when my brother was living, but just a really good guy, and I think it's a
Yeah,
good
he
appointment.
is.
Good to
He
see.
really is.
He's almost like a voice of Pittsburgh, so it's good to see him on some board.
Yeah, thanks, Councilwoman. Okay, so moving then out of unfinished business, we'll go into reports of committee for final action. As is our tradition, we begin with Councilman Burgess, our Chair of Finance and Law. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Councilman Reverend Burgess presents Bill number 1857, report of the Committee on Finance and Law for July 10th, 2019, with an affirmative recommendation. Bill number 1801, resolution providing for the issuance of a warrant in the total sum of $3,900 in favor of Medico Legal, Inc. for expert witness services related to the action filed in the Common Pleas Court of Allegheny County.
You've heard the reading of the title of the bills under our Committee on Finance and Law. Is there further discussion on this bill? Okay, seeing none, the bill is now ready for final action. All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye when their names are called, and those opposed will vote no. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Reverend Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Coghill. Ms. Gross. Mrs. Harris. Mr. Lavelle. Mr. O'Connor. Mrs. Kell-Smith. Ms. Strasburger.
Aye.
Mr. Kraus, President.
Aye.
Ayes 9, noes 0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The bill, having then received the legally required number of votes, is finally passed. Our next committee is our Committee on Public Works Services, and our chair is Councilwoman Teresa Kell-Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Kell-Smith presents Bill number 1858, report of the Committee on Public Works for July 10, 2019, with an affirmative recommendation. Bill number 1831, resolution granting unto AZ Holding LLC, their successors and assigns the privilege and license to construct, maintain, and use at their own cost and expense a handicap ramp at 3529 Butler Street in the 6th Ward, 7th Council District. Bill number 1847, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Public Works to apply for grant funding from the Allegheny County Sanitary Authority's Green Revitalization of our Waterways Program to renovate the site surrounding the First Tee Clubhouse located in the Bob O'Connor Golf Course in Shenley Park. In the event the grant is awarded, this resolution provides for an agreement and expenditures not to exceed $850,000.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So you've heard the reading and the title of the bills under our Public Works Services Committee. Do we have further discussion on either of these bills? Then seeing none, the bills are now ready for final action. All in favor of the passage of the bills will vote aye when their names are called. Those opposed will vote no. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Reverend Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Coghill.
Aye.
Ms. Gross.
Aye.
Mrs. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Lavelle. Mr. O'Connor. Mrs. Kell-Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Strasburger.
Aye.
Mr. Kraus, President. Ayes 9, noes 0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The bills then, having received the legally required number of votes, have finally passed. Our final committee of the morning is our Committee on Intergovernmental Affairs. Our chair, Councilman O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman O'Connor presents Bill number 1859, report of the Committee on Intergovernmental Affairs for July 10, 2019, with an affirmative recommendation. Bill number 1829, resolution authorizing the URA to submit an application to the Pennsylvania Office of the Budget for a Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program grant of up to $1,750,000 for the Allegheny Health Network ED Expansion Council District 1. Bill number 1830, resolution authorizing a corporation agreement with the URA in connection with the URA's application for a redevelopment assistance capital program grant of up to $1,750,000 for the Allegheny Health Network ED expansion.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. You've heard the reading and the title of the bills under our Committee on Intergovernmental Affairs. Do we have further discussion on either of the bills? Then seeing none, The bills are now ready for final action, and all in favor of the passage of the bills will vote aye when their names are called. Those opposed will vote no. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Reverend Burgess. Mr. Coghill. Ms. Gross. Mrs. Harris. Mr. Lavelle. Mr. O'Connor. Mrs. Kelsmith.
Aye.
Ms. Strasburger.
Aye.
Mr. Kraus, President.
Aye.
Ayes 9, noes 0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The bills then, having received the legally required number of votes, have finally passed. That moves us into motions and resolutions. Members will see before you a yellow sheet for an amendment that needs to be made. It is in reference to Bill 1730, which we passed on May the 28th of 2019. So we need to make a very minor technical correction, which is on your yellow page there.
It's a new paper?
No. It is.
I don't understand.
It is a bill that we passed on May 28th of 2019, which contains a typographical error, which is noted on your amendment, which needs to be corrected. And so the motion that I need.
Do you want me to ask you, or I'm sorry, do you want me to ask you? Okay,
Yeah.
so I don't understand how you do an amendment without bringing it back as a new paper. Can you explain that?
Which is where I'm going now, okay? So
Oh, fine, yeah.
Yeah, so what I need is a motion under our rules to rescind and adopt something that was, rescind and amend something previously adopted. And if I may have that motion in a second, then we'll have discussion.
Second.
So we have a motion to rescind something already adopted and amend, and now you have the amendment before you, and it's simply technical in nature. It needs to be stricken 719.10, and we need to add 719.04A. And again, it's just technical in nature. It was a typographical error that needs to be corrected. So on that, we have the motion, we have the second. Do we have discussion with Councilwoman Harris? Is that your
Yes.
hand I see? Okay.
I know when Ben took care of this, Carlise, these would come to each council member's office and check it out, that it's okay. Now, is that still in here?
There's nothing changed, and we're not here to discuss that other than a simple technical amendment that needs to be made. Councilwoman?
Well, I'm wondering if it's a technical amendment.
The amendment is before you in writing. It shows exactly what is going to be stricken. So everything else will remain exactly the same, and we're going to change B to A.
Okay, so then it should still be in there, and they should be still
Yes.
coming to
Yes.
the council members.
Everything is exactly the same except for that letter change.
Just want to make sure that council's involved.
It's
because
in
lately,
writing.
it just seems like
It's in writing,
we
Councilwoman.
only have one
Okay.
governmental body.
Anything else in further discussion then on this? Okay, so with that, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions? Okay, that's...
Abstain.
Thank you. One abstention. Okay, so that's handled under motions and resolutions. I do have some meeting announcements this afternoon at 1:30. Council is hosting...
I'm an abstention on that one, too.
Of course. So this afternoon at 1:30, Council is hosting a cablecast public hearing on Bill 1415 as it relates to the inclusionary housing interim planning overlay district. Then tomorrow, Wednesday, July 17, Council will meet at 9:30 a.m. for pre-agenda interviews for appointees to the Commission on Human Relations and the Equal Opportunity Review Commission here in Council Chamber. The Standing Committee meeting will immediately follow. Oh, okay, thank you. Let me finish it, then I will do that. Also, tomorrow afternoon at 1:30, Council is hosting a cablecast public hearing on Bill 1779 as it relates to a petition on the random and excessive bus route changes in the city's Morningside neighborhood. On Thursday, July 18th at 1:30, Council will hold an executive session as it relates to legal matters. And then on Monday, July 22nd at 1:30, council will hold a cablecast public hearing on Bill 1833 as it relates to the naming of the basketball court at Olympia Park. And then next Tuesday, July the 23rd at 1:30 p.m., council will hold a cablecast post-agenda discussion on autonomous vehicles, and that post-agenda will be chaired by Councilwoman Kell Smith. The clerk has reminded me that the vote I called for was simply for the amendment, and that we need to vote on the final action to complete the piece. We've noted 2 abstentions on the amendment. So on a final vote of the piece, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions?
Abstention.
Do you want to do a roll call, Madam Clerk? Okay, the clerk prefers a roll call on that. Can we do roll call?
Reverend Burgess. Mr. Coghill. Ms. Gross.
Abstain.
Mrs. Harris.
Abstain.
Mr. Lavelle. Mr. O'Connor. Mrs. Kell Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Strasburger.
Aye.
Mr. Kraus, President.
Aye.
Ayes 7, 2 abstentions.
Okay, Madam Clerk, thank you. Then the bill, having received the legally required number of votes, is passed. That completes motions and resolutions, if I may. Is that Councilwoman Kell Smith?
I wasn't going to say anything, but we have been hearing a lot about the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy and the tax that they want to put in place. And I did call for a post agenda on our partners in the city of Pittsburgh, but I actually think I want to change that. And I don't know if I have to do it by motion or just I want to change it just to a post agenda on Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy and the partnership with the city of Pittsburgh. And then I want to have other separate post agendas. I want to talk about the vacant lots and the partnerships with people doing vacant lots in the city of Pittsburgh. So I want to have 2 separate post agendas because I think there's a lot to discuss. My thing has always been I get very frustrated with nonprofit groups taking a lot of public dollars and delivering very little services without the volunteers of the public. But I mostly get upset when things seem a little bit disingenuous to me. And I feel like some of this stuff that came forward with the parks, although I think there's a great need for some of our parks, and I understand that the mayor wants to have great parks across the city of Pittsburgh, I don't appreciate the way this was rolled out to the public. I felt from the very beginning they knew the agenda, they knew the course they wanted to take. And I could be wrong, but it seemed I've heard a lot of conversation prior to the actual meetings. And when you go out to the public and say, we heard, we listened, and you have 2 people showing up at a meeting, or 4 people, or 10 people, or even 50 people, that certainly is not speaking for the public. And when you have people voting to raise a tax on people that aren't paying that tax, it's really upsetting. We've watched this happen with the library tax, and yet we still see a lot of the renovations with the library coming from RAD dollars and some other things. I just feel like there needs to be some real transparency here for the public regarding this process and some of our other partnerships and what we're really doing with tax dollars. I don't think it should be up to the public to sustain nonprofit organizations. They need to do fundraising and raise their own funds. Taxpayers are paying for the things to be done. They're paying for the parks. They're paying for pools to be open. And granted, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it may be a lot more if we weren't sustaining all these nonprofit organizations, including those who cut lots and grass and other things across the city. I think that we just need to look at some of our priorities and deliver services to our constituents. But this part with the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy is very concerning to me. I think that we're talking about foundations giving, I think it was $10 million I read. Well, get the $10 million from the foundations first, see what we can do, and if it works well, then maybe people will see what a worthwhile park is, and they'll want that. But the part that really made me laugh, and actually really made me disgusted, is when I looked at the list, and not one of the top 10 was in District 2, the west end of the city of Pittsburgh. Are you kidding me? I mean, there has been almost no investments in those parks until this most recent project with Elkasan. And other than that, there's not been a whole lot. The Emerald View Trail, that's been RAD funded, and you see those trails are in very poor condition. There's just a lot. The parks along that trail are in semi-decent condition because Tommy Pollan has just redone some of them. I just think that there's so much to talk about. I want to have a separate, I really want to have it right after we get back from break, before Election Day, before people come out to vote for this tax, I want to make sure that they're really informed on what to expect and what it will do, and I want to make sure that we get things on the record for the public. So I'd like to say that I'm going to schedule that separately as a partnership, a post agenda with about the partnership with Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy. So do I need to change that is what I want to know, because my post agenda was partnerships in the city of Pittsburgh, or can I just, because I want more than one post agenda.
I would think you could just call for your singular post agenda, Councilwoman.
Okay, so I'm going to make a
Fine.
motion to, motion to have a post agenda regarding Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy. Can we vote on that one first, and then I'm going to make another one?
Yeah.
Second discussion.
Okay.
Okay, and then my second one is, I'd like to make a post agenda for land, I'm trying to think, vacant lots in partnerships in the city of Pittsburgh. Vacant lot partnerships in the city of Pittsburgh. We'll word it some way, but
Yeah.
basically that's what I'm
I'm
on.
with you on that one. Just one clarification on your comment, Councilwoman. The capital improvements coming to the different branches of the library are not from RAD dollars. They are actually
The one in
from,
Mount Washington is.
they're from capital campaign under the leadership of Barbara Mistick when about $50 million was raised.
Yeah, but I wrote a letter for them to receive RAD funding for Mount Washington, so I know
We
that. I
do
did.
receive RAD funding, but those are for operational expenses.
No, this was for the.
They're not capital.
I'm going to show you the letter,
improvement dollars.
okay? Because it was
Yeah,
for.
we'll take it
was for the
offline.
capital project.
But just
Yeah,
there
but what I
was
want to say is that if you're raising taxes and you're still not, and you're still taking tax money elsewhere, there's something not right here. I mean, I think I value our libraries so much. I mean, I grew up in Oakland, walking to the library, the main library, almost every single day. And so I definitely value the libraries. I know what they bring to the community. But I'm just thinking, somebody needs to be watching the funding. That's all. That's our job. That's it. Okay.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So you have a motion and a second, and Councilwoman Harris wishes discussion.
Yes, I did not know anything about. I didn't know anything about the Parks Conservancy. I went outside and someone asked me to sign for it and said they were from California and this was for parks all over.
thought they had a paid
It
consultant.
was brought to me as not just
paid,
the city of
lobbyists.
Pittsburgh, but all over, and it just surprised me to have people from out of town doing these. Later on, I found out that it was for the city of Pittsburgh, and that once again, somebody wants to add a tax on. Ever since money has been given to the libraries, everybody thinks each year that they can furnish whatever they're doing with tax dollars from the city of Pittsburgh, and I agree.
I just feel
not
like
right.
if taxes need to be raised, then raise tax. Quit nickel and diming people to death. That's what I feel like.
But including when they said they couldn't even do the parks this year, well, I can understand with landslides if they get them all done. But we should have had $52 million extra in our budget this year because this was the lowest as the bonds were being paid off. So I can't understand why they were bringing people in from the outside as far as California. It didn't make any sense. And are those people getting paid to be here to do this? And from who? So I'm your second.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Burgess.
So oftentimes, these special interest organizations will hire people to come in and collect signatures. And that's obviously what they're doing. I'm not yet, I have not made up my mind yet really about this this tax. But I've talked to them. I've heard their concerns. What I'm really concerned about is whenever we divert tax dollars away from the oversight of the city, I become a little concerned. I don't always have great confidence. And it's interesting because it's, as sometimes I hear come to our, our public hearings and things, there are community groups that don't have confidence in elected officials. And I hear that, and they want more say-so. And at the same time, I think elected officials have a much broader understanding of our city, its needs, and than the community groups do, right? And so most of the time, many of the times, the community groups are thinking of it in terms of single issue or a single project or a single activity that they're passionate about or a single constituency, where those of us who are elected officials have to consider a regional approach, sometimes a city approach, a multi-neighborhood approach, and so I'm very concerned when city dollars or tax dollars are sent to any organization, whatever it is, without direct oversight of the council. And that's just my own personal bias because I'm a member of council. And so I think that we should have direct, explicit oversight over city tax dollars. I wish we had even a different relationship with the school board. I would argue, but that's a different conversation. But I really do believe that if it's a tax dollars and it's municipal, that's city specific, that the council should, and this is philosophical for me, that the council should have some direct oversight over it. That's just what I think.
Okay. Anyone else first round? Okay, Councilwoman Harris.
The council still has a direct vote on that. Anything that comes up, and if it's passed, just like it was also put on our agenda, that this is what the people wanted for that vote, but we still have the say-so on any monies that go out.
Not if they pass this tax, we won't.
They can't just pass the tax.
It's a referendum.
Go look at the rules.
Okay.
I just want to clarify, when I said that people are voting who never pay the tax, what I mean by that is there's a lot of people that are transient. There's a lot of students here, and there's endless votes in the universities. And so then you place a vote, because it does sound like a great idea. We want to we want to help our parks. But that was one of the comments that I heard. I actually have it on recording where people were sending me recordings where they were telling people that this was the way to save their parks. Our parks are great. Our parks are greater than a lot of places. I mean, that doesn't mean we can't do some great things, but some of the things that they're doing in other places is charging for some of the things that are on those public properties. And I don't know that, I think that's a philosophical conversation we have to have. Do people actually even want to go that way? So I just think that there's a lot to be said, a lot to be discussed. I think a lot of us value our parks, but we want to make sure that, our residents are getting nickel and dime to get death. There's only so many people paying taxes here. And if we're paying a library tax, we want to do a tax for children, tax for the parks. I mean, what's next? I mean, a drink tax. It's all the stuff that extra little taxes. If the taxes need raised, have that honest conversation with the residents. But we better make sure that we're spending the money wisely before you even go down that road. So for me, it's just an honest conversation. I feel that this was disingenuous the way this was rolled out, and very disappointed in the way this was handled and from the very beginning.
Okay, thanks, Councilman.
Yeah, I'll be real quick. I just strongly encourage everybody and anyone, if this does make the ballot, to not vote for it. When Jane came to town, I was at her welcoming party, and she had high ambitions, and I was really encouraged with her, what she had to say. She said, she's going to raise $20 million in 10 years as opposed to $10 million in 20 years, which is what the stats were from before. And I had thought she was going to do it through foundations, through maybe UPMC, whomever, but to raise the taxes to me just seems, well, anybody could raise $20 million if they get a tax hike. So it's disingenuous, it handicaps us, it gives us yet another obstacle for people who want to move into my district or buy a home there. Why not just move to Dormont or Mount Lebanon that's right next to me at a much lower rate? And if you look at the stats, I mean, I'm all for the parks. I love the parks, but very few percentage of people actually use the parks. And there's a higher percentage outside of the city, or as high outside the city as there is inside the city. So that's my comments.
Thanks, Councilman.
Please vote it down.
Great. Okay. All right. Is that your hand again there, Councilwoman?
No, for the next one.
Okay, good. May I have a motion then to approve the minutes and adjourn our meeting?
Wait a minute.
Good.
Did we have to vote on Councilwoman Smith's?
On your postage, forgive me, we need to vote on your postage
And then
agendas.
my hand's up.
Okay, all right. We need to vote on your post agendas. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Abstentions. Further conversation with Councilwoman Harris.
Yes. I'd just like to say, if you didn't stop over on the north side this weekend, you missed a great music fest. This year it ran from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And what was included was gospel music on Sunday, and I think it was just hitting as many people that like different music as possible. I think they did a lot of work on it. I'd like to congratulate them on having the Music Fest, Northside leadership, and Ben and Corey, blanking out of his name already. But anyhow, it was a great time. And I just wanted to make sure that the public knew that there was a shooting in Nova Place. And that had absolutely nothing to do with the Music Fest. It was no part of the Music Fest. So just want to make sure everybody knows that, because it wasn't really clear when they put it on the news. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, may I have a motion to approve our minutes and adjourn the meeting? All in favor?